Guys, what's going on? Welcome to Dave Doc DIY. Now, I'm excited about the video we're going to be doing today. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to solder copper pipe. Now, this is something that people think is extremely complicated, but if you follow a few simple steps, anyone can do it. Let's show you how. All right, now the tools you're going to need. Obviously, you are going to need some solder. This is by Odie. You can get this at any Home Depot. You're going to need a pipe cutter. Now, this is a 3-pack of pipe cutters that goes from 1/2 inch all the way up to 1 inch. Obviously, I'm only going to be using my 1/2 inch pipe cutter. They also make cutters that come in adjustable sizes. This is a really old one I have made by Lennox. So you have your solder, you have your pipe cutter. After that, the next thing you're going to need is soldering flux. This is actually almost like an acid that's going to allow the solder to bond to the copper after the copper is cleaned. I have my torch set up right here. We've got some Burns-O-Matic MAP gas, and then I have a swivel torch head from Burns-O-Matic that I really love over the years. I'm gonna screw this on here right now. Do a little tester. Good to go. Now you're going to need a fitting brush. This is going to clean out the inside of your fitting, and then you're going to need a outside of the fitting brush. Now you can use scratch cloth for this. This is 120 grit scratch cloth. This is what I usually use, but yeah, we're going to be going with our outside pipe cleaner because these things are great. I can't tell you how many of these I've lost over the years, but this gets the job done. I'm also in the process of reorganizing all of my tools in the garage, so if it's a mess behind me, don't mind that. Now, the fitting I'm going to be using, I'm using some of my older fittings because I don't really want to waste good ones. This is a piece of M copper. There are 2 types of coppers. There's M copper and L copper. M is a lot thinner, and honestly, I always just use L copper if I'm soldering anything. M is a little bit cheaper and obviously a little bit less material on it. If you're going to get a pinhole leak in your pipe, it's probably going to happen on M copper. Oh, I almost forgot. You need a brush for your flux. Little brush. Now I'm going to bring you in closer so you can see how this is done. Alright, so what we're going to do now is cut our pipe. I already cut a little piece off of this here. Just going to grab our pipe cutter. It has a direction on it. You're just going to slide it on here. You're going to turn your cutter in the direction, and then your copper is cut. Simple as that. Now after this is cut, you want to ream it out. I don't have my reamer on me, but that's okay if you don't have a reamer on you. If you notice any burrs on those inside edges, I'll just grab a pair of pliers, keep them closed, and just give them a good little reaming. That's good to go. Now after this is done, you want to grab your fitting brush or your outside pipe cleaner. We're gonna slide this right on here. And as you can see, once we are done giving it a couple turns, your copper is nice and clean. You want it to look like that. Now we're going to grab our 90 right here, 1/2 inch 90 that looks like it came from the Flying Dutchman ship. We're going to grab our 1/2 inch fitting brush, and we're just going to go in here, stick your fitting brush right inside your fitting, and just start cleaning it out. Clean out both sides of the fitting. Looking nice and clean, good to go. Also, I got to clean my other piece of copper that's going to go on the end of this. Now what I'm going to do here, we're going to get our copper. I'm going to throw it in my little clamp here to make this easier to show you. So what I'm going to do right now, while my fitting is nice and clean, just get a little bit of our soldering flux right here. We're going to give our brush a little twirl in there. Then I'm just going to put a little bit of flux on here, just enough to be the brush width. We're going to get our copper pipe right here. We're going to get our fitting, slide it right on. Simple. I'm going to grab my other fitting right here, throw some flux on here. Good to go. We're going to slide that in. Now what I like to do is if you have any excess flux on here, I like to just get a rag and wipe it off. Imagine if this is hanging from the ceiling or inside the wall, just grab a rag, wipe off your excess flux because it can cause your solder to run and make for an ugly joint. Now we're ready to grab the torch. I'm just sitting a little saw blade under here so I don't screw up my table. We're going to grab our torch. We're going to turn on our torch. We're going to get the flame that we want. This is right around where I like mine. Now, people will tell me the tip of your torch is turning red. This is an adjustable flame torch. I've never had issues with the tip of this torch turning red. I've probably had this tip for at least 8 years or so. I'm actually due for a new one. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get this torch turned on and we're gonna heat up right here on the fitting, first thing. Do a little dab just to see if your solder's running. And then boom, that's all it takes, right there. Now, we can keep our heat down towards this section when we're gonna go hit up here because you want your heat to draw the solder into your fitting. So I'm gonna turn this back on. Right down here, kind of right in the middle of the fitting. Just do a little dab, we're ready to solder. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to let this cool off a little bit, and then we're going to hit it with this rag again to get the flux off, and then we'll show you a closer view of these solder joints. Also, if you're inexperienced soldering, I would have a fire extinguisher around you at all times. You got an open flame, you want to be as safe as possible. Now this one is one I'm getting rid of. Obviously this is super old, but have a fire extinguisher, be safe with it. We've cooled down a bit. I'm going to come in here with the rag right now, start cleaning this fitting off. And there you have it. That's a solder joint. You do this, you're not going to have any leaks. I've been soldering for years. I'm a big fan of soldering. Is this solder joint perfect? No. Was I trying to make it perfect? No. After you heat it up, you can wipe the flux that slides out off again, and you're going to get a lot cleaner of a solder joint. Little drip acts in here. There's ways to fix that too as you get more experienced with it. This was wobbling a little bit as I was soldering, as you could see there. And this fitting, obviously really old, but it kind of looks a little better after it got heated up. Now one more thing I would like to show you before we go here. I'm going to pour some water into this fitting, and I just want to show you what's going to happen if you try to solder while there is water inside of your fitting here. Okay. Now if there's still water present, when you're going to solder this, you're going to see you're just going to start to get steam that's going to come out of this end here, and this solder joint is not going to sweat. I'm heating it up, there's water starting to shoot out of it. That is why I'd suggest if you're trying to solder and that there's water present, you grab a shop vac, stick the shop vac hose on the end of it, and make sure all of the water is sucked out, or you're going to be sitting there trying to heat it up forever. Alright, so those are the basics of soldering. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below. Is this the prettiest solder joint I've ever seen? No, I'm sure some people are going to say that down in those comments. But those are the basics of soldering. I'm not trying to show you how pretty I can make it, or how clean the joints can be. Solder, flux, heat, it's going to have a nice soldered joint. You're going to be good to go. There's not going to be any leaks. The reason I'm reorganizing my garage is because I want to make more tutorials like this. It's a controlled environment. I can set up my little workbench here, think of something that might help you out in your house, and start showing you more stuff like this. I obviously already have a ton of DIY tips in my shorts and long form section, but I really want to try to nail some stuff down that I think can help people out at their house, and this is step one to that. We'll call it Dave Doc Garage Tips, whatever. But that's it for this one, for the first one of this new series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Dave Doc DIY. See you next time.